Hello. Hello. How are you today? I hope you're having a good day. This is Jim the Keys Bartender coming to you from the Florida Keys. And it's been a different type of start of day that it's atypical in this household. This morning, it wasn't that unusual and something you share. I could share with you. This morning I woke up at 10 after 7 and it was a revelation because normally I'm up at 6 because it's a school day. And that's when my wife's alarm goes off and she gets up and starts her routine, or I get up and start the routine of making coffee and get ready to get our daughter moved along. And today I woke up at 10 after 7. I woke up the wife and she's looking at it, she thought it was 10 after 6. So we ended up going to bed a little early last night, and we ended up getting a little more sleep. But there was no panic. It's one of those things. It's you're late, right? But the girls take a little longer to get ready. What happened in the end was she ended up getting in school 10 minutes after the starting time. And there were still people, they do screeners outside the school, checking for temperatures and letting people come in for that. So it worked a little better, and we didn't get all panicky. We weren't all frustrated and stuff like that. It's just one of those things. It's weird that we weren't rushing because Abby has, I think she has about, at that time, she had more than 2.5 hours to be in the work. So she still had time to go to the gym and work out. And I had time to take the daughter to school, and instead of picking her up later on before I come into work and driving approximately 20 miles south, I didn't have to do that. I took her to school and then went to the gym myself. So I was all relaxed, had my coffee. Daughter was relaxed. We all did those things, and it really didn't change our day much, other than she might get a tardy mark on her report card, but she's a pretty good student. She doesn't have a lot of problems right there. She's been coming in because she's in 8th grade, her last gasp of middle school, with about a month left to go. She's getting a little rebellious when it comes to school. And on another note, I took her out, my daughter who's 14, who's going to be 15 in about 6 months, little less than 6 months. I started taking her out to take her no parking lot. So her first experience won't be when she gets a learner's permit. I don't think it's legal to do that because you're supposed to have I don't know. I think you need a learner's permit for driving on the road. But I took her to an empty lot, and I was really pleasantly surprised. I know this is kind of a ham-handed segue. I was pleasantly surprised that she could handle the car. She wasn't panicky or anything like that. And my wife was sure that I would be the one that would be out of control teaching the daughter, and that I wouldn't be relaxed. And it turned out the other way around because she started showing our daughter in the driveway what to do, and they didn't even get out of the driveway. I imagine it was a week before. And yeah, she did a really good job. But I'll tell you, that extra hour, that was a gift, being able to sleep. Being an older man. When I say older man, I like to say I'm 57. I would like to say that, in my view, I'm just slightly past my prime, even though physically I'm in close to my prime, because I've been taking care of myself, not drinking and things like that. I've been making better choices than I did when I was younger. If I had made better choices when I was younger, who knows where I would be right now. But we're going to get into that a little later on. That extra hour sleep, though. I mean, I get up in the middle of the night at least once. And I did get up. I've been getting up. I've been almost going all the way through the night recently because of some of my change in my habits. And I don't have to get up. I got up like maybe an hour and 10 minutes before. And you never really get when you have an hour left, you never really get back into that deep sleep. But I ended up sleeping 2 hours, a little over 2 hours and 20 minutes. And you could get into quality sleep with that. And I did. I feel great. I know it sounds like that. I haven't really eaten yet either. I did work out, did some cardio and stuff like that. But it's a beautiful day. Yesterday, I did a live show, and it was threatening the rain all day. And today, it's just, partly cloudy, beautiful day, lower 80s, and just gorgeous. And it's nice to be out there and things like that. And I like getting things done early. Just my thing now. And I still have to work tonight. So I get that done. But what I'm going to, you'll see the title of the show is Who's Your Daddy and You Don't Pay My Bills. May sound like overtly sexual, but it is not about sex, not about fucking. I just threw that in there because I always have explicit, and it's for adults. And if you have a problem with that, I'm sorry. But it is Keys Bartender, not Keys Church Hour. And it's just a word. It's just a word. But I put explicit just so I can have the freedom to say things that just could come up. Why worry about that? And plus, it's not like I'm going to lose sponsors. I haven't really done that yet. But I noticed recently, and actually today, before going into to go drive my daughter to school, we had to just pop the television on and get a little news, and then it went back to a beginning of a movie that I never really enjoyed. I never thought much of it. I'm not a Nicolas Cage fan or a Tia Leone. And then there's a movie called Family Man, where he's this high-powered Wall Street type. And Tia Leone's a college girlfriend, and he's given an alternate choice, and it made me think about things. An alternate choice meaning how to live his life. And I won't get into the theme of the movie. I don't know if it's worth it, but the idea is worth it. And it made me think in the beginning, I wanted to talk about bringing the bar thing in, how similar it is about the need for people to be taken care of. People, you think about when you go into the similarities between a bar and a home and how you are with your children or people you take care of. Let's say you're a caregiver. And that works for any caregiver. So people come in, you ask them how it's their day, you greet them, you tell them it's good to see them, or you express that it's good to see them. You hope it's that way, because there's some people that don't have that. And I would hope that's the exception rather than the rule. I would hope that. That's my reality. And some people always say, what do you think, this is a home or a restaurant? Well, I'm in a restaurant. And I ask them what they want. But a lot of times I give them, if they look like they're hot, I'll just give them ice water right away because they look like they might be thirsty. And some people, regulars that are always drinking what they normally drink, I just have their drink up there by the time they sit down because they never vary. They always drink Yingling, they drink Yingling. If someone always drink vodka and soda, give them a vodka and soda. And just waiting for them. You ask how their day, you tell them how they're doing, you make a little joke. If they're vacationers, you say you're just meeting them for the first time. You welcome them. You ask them how they're enjoying their vacation. What would they like? You don't know that, but you be extra friendly. You placate, and you try to put them at ease. And and there's other people that come in, they're in different states, just like children. Wear your pants, put your top back on. I'm putting you to bed. That's when I say putting you to bed, I don't mean taking liberties with them. I meant that they may have had a bit to drink too much and you might have to take them home, especially if they're driving. Sometimes you have to put them in a taxi. But I am no stranger to dropping someone at home. And but you also tell them the other things. You say, would you like some water? Here's this. Do you need it? You're sneezing. You need some. Here's a tissue for you. Not having, trying to anticipate what they might want. And that's what a loving parent or caregiver does. A caring caregiver, let's say. You don't necessarily have to love someone, but that, and then, warning them that hot wings come out when there's just, they know it's going to be spicy, order hot, but you got to tell them the temperature. Say, listen, this just came out of a deep fryer. Do not put it directly in your mouth. You're sitting at the bar. The kitchen is literally 5 feet away. That just came out 15 seconds ago. They are at 400 degrees, 500 degrees. So please do not put that in your mouth. And a lot of people, maybe people are looking for that. Because it's tough out there. It is tough out there. People spend their first 10, 18 years of life, depending on it, just being cared for. And hopefully it's at least 18 years of life for most of them, like in the United States and other places that are less developed. People are expected to be on their own a lot earlier. But in Western society, you start getting a thing where parents want to care for someone up until they're 18. And then there's the necessity of the child wanting to be independent. When they're, whatever time they start feeling they want independence. Like, stop tying my shoes. I can pour my own water. I can flush I can go to the bathroom by myself. And some people, it's like potty training and getting them all ready. Spending the first years of their life getting them ready. A lot of animals start out where they are almost on their own from the beginning after they hatch. And they go out there. And other ones, the humans being one of the longest, if not the longest, where they are adolescents being cared for by their parents. Hopefully both, if it gets to be, and then there's different families now. Obviously, there's adopted families, same-sex families, there's single households, there's foster homes and things like that. But it seems like after a certain while that kids, they rebel. They start rebelling against the caregiving, and then they start struggling for independence. They want to do as much as they can, and their aspirations are to become independent in some degree. I remember it was a year or two ago, my daughter started saying about moving out, moving to New York, wanting to be wealthy, and having a house, and I didn't think, I said, if you're talking about New York, a lot of times it's about an apartment or a condo. So you should rethink your terminology. And, a house is more of a suburb thing, not a city thing. But you can get a house. There's brownstones and stuff like that. If you're talking about like $5 million, maybe. I think that may be cheap in Manhattan. Inexpensive. But there's always an exception, too. And there's always, and I don't want to spend too much time on that, it's the failure to launch. People that never really leave home, or they leave home for a part-time. You go to the netherworld of college, where you're let's say you're going to college and you're living within an hour's travel of your home. I did that in college. I would bring my laundry home and do my laundry. Sometimes my grandmother would do my laundry, go and eat. Feed myself during the week, or go to the cafeteria where someone else is feeding you. You're barely doing it. If you've seen dorm living and stuff, the way kids take care of their bath facilities is atrocious. Kids. It was filthy. It was disgusting. And a lot of these, you're moving out of a house where they never cleaned. And they're moving to a place they're expecting to clean up, pick up after themselves. They're not going to do it. A certain amount of people won't. And certain people were independent and did a lot of cleaning, but they don't want to do it for someone else. They feel they'll use. So you're in that netherworld where you're not really independent, and your parents are taking care of it. And then there's the other people that work their ass off to get there. And they've been, this small group of people that they were pretty much the parent growing up, right? But when they get out of college, they end up going back, and we've seen that a lot more in the modern world. You don't see it, you didn't see it as much years ago, or you don't see it depicted that much years ago. See, that's the thing. There's probably a lot of people that lived, if you think about it, a lot of multi-generational households existed years ago where grandma was there and grandma helped care for the kids. And then we started getting a separation. You had grandma's house, you had mom's house, and then you got your house. They were a little more efficient. If you think about the frontier home, they had everyone in one house. But nowadays, you have all these different reasons why people may not become independent. They could be developmentally disabled, psychologically disabled, right? Just, I hate to use the terminology, but they're incapable of socializing with other people or communicating. They're crazy. And I know that you can get in a lot of trouble for using the word crazy, but it's the catch-all term where people will act outside the norm of human behavior. There's the physically disabled, even though sometimes the physically disabled are the ones that work the hardest to become independent. Without people trying to be independent and stuff like that, there would be no, you'd see these cars that are driven by people that are paralyzed, using very subtle movements, not having their lower extremities work, but they're using their hands and things like that, getting their own vehicles. A van, especially equipped van to get you around. Now with the advent of self-driving vehicles, you're going to see a lot more of independence. Eventually when it becomes legal, for the independence that will be given to blind people. Obviously, the Uber and Lyft and all that stuff, you have the independence. But if you think about it, if they didn't have to call anybody or get anybody, dependent on anybody, or interact and just say, I want to be independent. We're at the point in history where technologically the capabilities of the physically disabled are greatly enhanced, and there's not a lot of big margin between what the physically disabled can do and the supposedly 100% able can do because of the technology. Physically, there are going to be things where things are automated and things like that. If you're guiding that or anything, I don't want to get into this. Show isn't about. And there's some kids that have been fulfilling the parental roles the whole time, and their failure to launch is that they're taking care of that parent anyway, and they're not leaving. So the roles were reversed, and then you just have the lazy, the people that, it's part psychological, I guess. Because I have to put myself in that category when I was younger. I'm coming clean right now. After college, after everything I did, when I was ready, I came back home. I was offered to help out at my grandmother's house. My father, when he got divorced, they moved my grandmother out of a bad neighborhood, moved the whole family over there. So we had that multi-generational thing going. She was happy to do it. Fulfilled her meaning in her life in retirement she didn't have for a while, about 6-7 years. And she got the ability to be an essential worker again, meaning raising the kids. And when I was in my late 20s, I moved back. And there I am, staying there, doing my own thing though. When I say doing my own thing, I'm talking when I leave the house. When in the house, I still had I was getting my clothes washed. Food was being made. I started, as the time went on, I started being the one making the food and taking care of the grandmother. But then it was my 30s when I got married. I moved out a couple times. It didn't work out too well. Part of it was my issues with alcohol. I just didn't see it. I couldn't see it in front of me, but that was one of the things. I abused alcohol tremendously especially if I had to take care of if I had someone else taking care of me, that's when I did it worse. I'm going to pause it right now. Wait, no, I can't pause it right now. I'm getting a phone call from this Tim Dickerson. Oh, I don't want to say his name. I did say his name. Okay, I'm going to call him back, but I forgot I was live. This is part of the thing of having problems. I hope it's not an issue with a business. I shouldn't have said the name. I don't believe I did that. See? It's a responsibility. But let's get back. I'm going to just focus on the job at hand right now. So yes, I had issues about moving out, and I didn't. But who doesn't want to be cared for? And who doesn't want to who's willing to give away some of their personal freedoms? And when I say personal freedoms, I'm not talking about political freedoms like the right to bear arms, right to speech, and all that stuff. I'm talking about personal freedoms, going out with whoever they want, sleeping with whoever they want, staying out as late as they want, going away when they want, making certain decisions on their living situation, stuff like that. Now, if you weigh the ability of receiving those things at a lower expense, let's say, and there's someone to take care of you at home, a lot of people would just take that. And other people value their freedom more. They'd rather say, I want my own stuff, I want to do this, I want to do my own thing. But independence has its own value. I make my own money, I fulfill my own obligations. You don't pay my bills, right? Would you give away that for its security or well-being, or would you sacrifice the vice versa? So I always think of that classic sugar daddy scenario. But it could be a sugar mama, young man, young woman, attractive, and then you have an older, financially secure man or woman, and they find an accommodation. We always try to, sometimes people, depending on their perspective, when you're an older man with a daughter, you kind of have a duality of it. You think you could fantasize about the younger girl, but then all of a sudden you can frown upon the situation because you wouldn't want your young child to do that. That's the hypocritical part of it. But would you do it? If I wouldn't necessarily do it. I don't know. But that's not exactly the type of relationship I want. Meaning, yeah, I can physically appreciate a younger, beautiful thing. I can physically appreciate, but I don't know if I can emotionally appreciate it. I don't know if that would satisfy my needs, meaning my conversational needs, my just relationship needs. Like I would like the shared experience of having the years and to have someone that went through similar circumstances as I has risen through those benchmarks. But I've been in a situation where I wanted to be cared for, so I can understand that. And so if I was, let's say 20, 30 years ago, I did date an older woman, but it wasn't for her financial security. She was in her 30s, late 30s, I think, mid to late 30s. I was in my early 20s. That was a big difference for me. And a couple times there was women I dated a couple years older than me. A couple years. And I found them to be great relationships. The younger ones was a lot tougher because, obviously there was different things, different aspirations they had, and different needs and wants. So I was thinking about those situations, and I said, that's transactional in nature. A sugar daddy's a transactional relationship where it's like any relationship. Almost all relationships are transactional. And it depends on the value you put on those things. So in basically any relationship there is out there, friendships, you're exchanging camaraderie and conviviality, conversation, sociability for the same thing in it. And then some people will call, some people users, where they use them for status or to get some advantage on something. Not just social status, financial status. You use them for their knowledge or their ability to do something. And you call those people users. Well, they're not. I'm not like that, but they're willing to sacrifice their people's opinions of them. They say, well, I don't care. I'm not looking for friends. My goal is social, financial, or power status. I just want, or social and power, same thing, I guess. But people that in a military organization, business, academic, even ecclesiastical, you could use someone to better your condition. And you don't really care about the interpersonal relationship as much or that other person. That's transactional in nature. You're taking that. Now, the other person may not realize what the transaction is. And part of that could be misleading, is saying the person is saying, well, listen, I can help you out too. A lot of times people do that and they don't really intend to fulfill that part of the unspoken agreement. And people do that in relationships a lot. Guys do it a lot when it comes to women. You say, listen, if you give me a physical intimacy, sex, if you allow me to fuck you or do whatever, I will give you emotional relationship. I will give you the sociability that you want in it, and maybe in some cases the financial well-being, where there's no intention there or there's no follow-through. Same thing goes with a girl. She might say, listen, I'm doing this. There's probably there could be more and more of that happening, where the women and guys are saying, well, I'm just there for the physical, and the other person's expecting more of a well-rounded relationship. That's transactional too. It's just that the person that wants the basic needs, the physical needs, doesn't inform the other person about that. And sometimes it's really great when these new apps that come out, that their intention it's pretty much forward. This is for people to satisfy their physical intimacy requirements. And I wholeheartedly approve that that's the best way to go when it's things like that. And so I wouldn't look so darkly on the gold digger and negatively and look at him and say, well, that person's just doing it for the money. They don't really give a shit about that person. Well, Jesus, the older man who's in his 70s, who's with a 20-something fitness model, female fitness model, you don't think he's aware that she's there for that? If he's under the misconception that she's there because physically she's super attracted to him. In some cases, maybe she does have something like that, where she's physically attracted to him. I'm sure there's every sort of, and I wouldn't call it disorder, there's every sort of taste for people. But it's more likely than not, they do understand the transactional nature of that. And you'll see it, like I used to love it when they go to the Playboy Mansion, and the Playboy Mansion was... They have Hugh Hefner, and he'd be in his bathrobe. He's passed away a couple of years ago. And they'd have the girls he's dating or married to. I don't know what to do. But in the later years, more recently, he was very old. And he was showing signs of decrepitude. And the young Playboy bunnies that are living with him as a couple, and usually had a couple of them, they talk about how great he is, how good in bed, how much they love him. I mean, I'm sure at the end it was kind of more like the transaction was more like a caregiver, and I'm sure it was tougher because you saw the quality of the Playboy bunnies were changing. I don't mean to be objective or subjective, but there were girls that he would never have been with 15, 20 years earlier when he was sharper. So, but a lot of people say, well, what a way to go. That's all he wanted. You know, another person says, I'd rather have someone that loves me for who I am. And remember what I said about, I at one time had a 1980, this was back in the 90s. I had a 1980 rusting colored copper, rusting from the rust, and copper colored Malibu wagon. And I used to get dates. I used to get girls come in the car with me, and they weren't in there for the money. I did have the loft apartment and stuff like that, but that was pretty sweet. And I didn't know then, but I realize now when I see guys buy the car, and there's pretty sweet cars out there. I've never owned a sweet car. I always had basic transportation. I never had a girl get it. Oh my God, look at that. 1980 AMC Hornet with Levi interior. And that green fender on a white car. Wow. I used to take girls on dates in these junker I bought for $100. Right? I knew they weren't in it for the car. I was a character. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I knew the point. The point was that we shouldn't necessarily judge people by their aspirations, because almost every relationship's transactional. And if someone just says, well, I'm looking for a supportive, caring, loving person, the stereotypical relationship, don't be too judgmental of people that aren't looking for the same thing. And they are looking for, we started out looking what people like to be treated as a child. And that's where they want to be given things. And children don't think about what they have to return for that. Sometimes they know from punishment they have to be polite and do their chores and things like that. But there's not a lot of things a lot of children have to do. Some learn that they have to do a lot in order to earn that. Some kids don't. So they just never grow out of that stage. Oh, and getting back to that story I saw, it made me think about amnesia. I saw 2 stories on amnesia. There's someone on YouTube, Julie Nolke. She did something about that. And this guy, that Nicolas Cage movie. And I was thinking, if you woke up one day and forgot all your personal history tomorrow, not knowing who you are, what relationships you had, not knowing your status, and you were just neutral, and you had to choose what you were going to be. And I'm not saying you're going to be the Crown Prince of England versus that, but I'm just choosing a kind of person you're going to be. You could be borderline criminal, meaning like you don't do anything that's slightly above board, or you're a saint. I would hope that someone that's kind of a saint would always stay that way, because that's the way. But who knows? If you forget that, what would you say, do, or decide to be the option? Like the character you want to be. You'd still have the knowledge of the things you've learned. And they said it's a very specific type of amnesia. And there's probably some out there. It could be brought on by psychological trauma and stuff like that, where they forget everything to do with their personal life. But everything they learned. And there's probably a couple of them out there. And you decide, you say, well, this is what my model is. The hero, the partier, the thief, the bully, the asshole, the saint. Who keeps you in that role that you are? I think it's the people you surround yourself with, and I think it's the person that you believe you are. It's a multi-thing. It's your family, the people you interact, kind of reinforcing what they think you are. If you take someone and they started remember Trading Places, Eddie Murphy? And Eddie Murphy's a scam artist, and he ends up being thrown into, to become an investment banker. And he starts fulfilling that role and becoming that person. Now, it's a facile description, but I think generally it's the same. You just change is... you always hear that saying, change is from within. And if you have the ability, it's tougher to do when you have a family. It's tougher like if you're at a Dugars and you have like 19 kids or something like that. And you have all these people telling you who you are. Well, what are you? Where are you going to be? How are you supposed to react? Someone has an expectation of how you're going to behave to a situation. Do you fit that stereotype? Like when someone says, I know when I tell him this, he's going to get really angry. Or I know when I tell this, he's going to laugh it off. Or he's going to be understanding. If you didn't have to do that, you could decide how you'd react, who you would be, what your choices would be. Think about it. I mean, I'm not treating myself like a success story. I did not move from Philadelphia to Key Largo necessarily changed my life. I moved from Philadelphia to Key Largo because I was going through separation. And I had the opportunity to do it. And I had a dream that I could come down here and drink the way I want. I wouldn't be treated like, I wouldn't have this expectation that I was a fuck up, a drunk, that I didn't have that aspirations and I didn't really follow through on anything. I was a jack of all trades, a master of none. I show moments of brilliance, but now no follow through. You could see the common theme. There was no follow through, and there was a lot of things I would fuck up by doing things, right? I was able in the relationship remain. I would be able to maintain a level of fidelity in my relationship when I was married, but I was ready not to be. So when I moved down here, I tried to continue that. I felt a bit of a change, but I kept on doing the same thing when it came to drinking. And I wasn't responsible when it came financially. I was never that way financially. It's a recent occurrence in my life, and recent being the last 10, 12, 13 years. And I had a bit of slip when I went back out there drinking again. When I stopped drinking, that was such a big part of my life that I realized no one knew who was at. They didn't know me. I stopped drinking within 3-4 months of being down here. No one knew me for years as a drunk, other than my best friend I moved down with at the time. And he stopped talking to me after a year or two over a misunderstanding. And when we started talking again, but I always thought the issue was my drinking, and wasn't he actually, we didn't get along much after I stopped drinking because he drank a lot and I didn't. So that one thing led me to the possibilities of being all these other things and remembering what I wanted to be was supportive. I'm not really great. I'm not a saint. I'm not the hero, but I try to be helpful. I try to be helpful in those situations that I can be helpful. And I try to make quicker decisions. And I think part of it being ready, not physically ready, taking care of myself. Those things were within my grasp. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it. And I moved out. I didn't have any kids up north. I always say that to people when I describe this guy separated and left. I didn't have any kids, so I didn't have a reason to be up there. And I said, yes, I did have a wife I was separated from, but she was ready to move on. And she ended up getting married and having a kid on her own. Way after, over a year after we've been separated. So there's no question there. I didn't know I could do some of the things that I did. I rarely had the follow through. That was my main thing I was thinking about for a long time. I could start. I'd have these great moments of brilliance and energy, which I would bring down by abusing my body with alcohol, cigarettes, some drugs. I'm not really a drug person, though. I don't just judge drug people because I did it with alcohol. And if it was very easily with a slight stir of the genetic mixing pot, it could have been a problem without drugs. And then I would have had a whole another thing to do. But hopefully I would have been able to achieve that too. And once your eyes are open to that, once you see possibilities, once you see there is a possibility, it adds more momentum to change. Once you know that. Once you know there's a possibility of change. Some people don't if you're locked in a prison and your life could be viewed as a prison, there's a possibility you see that there's no way I'm going to change. There's no way. I've been this way. Everyone views me this way. How could, I'm a liar. I'm a drunk. I'm a philanderer. Fucking around. You know what I mean? A whore. I was a whore. And I gave a bad name to whores, I think. But I didn't know I could be the other way. You know, sober, loyal, caring, constant, instead of inconsistent. There is a level of inconsistency there all the time with my mood. Sometimes I can't always be the way I want to be, understanding stuff like that. And it amazes people. It amazes people to this day when I can get frustrated. Because they say, oh, wow, Jim seems that, he always he's always kind of ambitious and stuff like that. But for some reason, he just can't follow through, or he gets frustrated and he lost his cool and stuff like that. Well, that's remnants of the thing. And you're not going to be able to excise all those demons, but doing some of it is liberating. And the possibility, and it's a gift to yourself. If you're able to do it, if you have the ability to do it, give it your best shot. Try. Knowing that there is a possibility. And that's why when people don't see there is, I believe that's why, you get people that think of the ultimate bad choice, which is suicide. And you shouldn't think that, because as long as you draw a breath, there's a way to change. Change occurs from within. It's a simple answer. Change occurs from within. But there's things you could do to help that change. The smallest things, just like an avalanche could, it could just create a momentum that would be wonderful in your life. I'd like to thank you for listening. If you are in Key Largo, please stop at the Catch Restaurant at mile marker 102 Oceanside. It's open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Monday through Friday, they have a happy hour, 3:30 to 6:30. And they have great deals on food and drinks during a happy hour. And also, if you have your own catch, bring it there and they'll prepare it for you almost any way you want. And there's a large assortment of non-seafood dishes for people that don't like seafood. And if you come there, tell them the Keys Bartender sent you. And if you like the show, please share the Keys Bartender show with your friend. Thank you for everyone for listening. Thank you for our new friends in Calgary, Canada. There was a big download from there. I do note it. And if you have any questions and you want to talk about any topics, it's like a bar. So we talk about everything. Email me at jim@keysbartender.com. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't do a lot of Instagram because I'm not a thing about doing selfies, stuff like that. Maybe I should do more of it. But I don't want to, right now. I guess that's followed through. Thank you very much and have a great day. Until next time, let's play that music.